ordinances. Right now, neither our general ordinances nor our zoning ordinances address, or I should say permit, retail sales within the city for adult use marijuana.
How many licenses have been submitted for recreational, period, if that's a valid question?
I'd have to defer to the clerk. The only ones that I know that we have processed have been grow and processing licenses. We haven't received, well, actually, those are the only 2 adult use facilities we allow.
So we only got 2 types of licenses.
Yeah, so I couldn't say off the top of my head how many we have active right now. I'd have to defer to Jill, because we've had a lot of applications come through lately.
So I was just wondering, like, how many have we allowed? Like, we did medical, we allowed like 5 different kind of licenses. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, most of the medical ones are kind of phasing out, and
Right.
those that had medical are switching over to adult use. The bulk of the medical that we had were grow and processing, and so and several of the applicants are stacking the licenses, so you'd have one location, but they'll have like 5 licenses. But we're not seeing very many medical anymore at all.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, and I just have a, I guess, question to clarify. With the establishment of the overlay district, we've uncapped the level of licenses that we can award. They just have to fall within the approved overlay district. Is that correct?
Correct. With the overlay district system that we implemented, we don't have a cap on the licenses anymore because it was rendered moot by switching to the overlay method, because the facilities are geographically limited to a specific area. So instead of limiting them by setting a number, they just now have to be within the overlay district, and that eliminates the necessity to deal with the competitive process set forth in the state statute. We don't have to do a competitive process because we don't have a cap on the number of licenses.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ian. City Clerk Domingo?
And Ms. Mayor, technically there was a motion made regarding the public hearing. There should be a motion on approval of the first reading.
I'm sorry. We have a motion to approve of the first reading.
So moved.
Support. Already asked our questions, so it's okay. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
No.
Lawler,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Public comment. So at this time, if anybody in the gallery would like to stand and speak on a specific agenda item, you have this opportunity to take the floor, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Ashley Woodson, 315 East Cass Street. I am a member of the Racial Equity Task Force and member of the board of the NAACP and chair of the Legal Redress Committee. I'm also really excited to see a conversation about the website on the agenda today. It is a link that I share anytime I'm trying to recruit or encourage someone to consider Albion. It is very much our face to the world. I haven't taught survey methods in a long time. I'm most interested in speaking on our comprehensive plan. There are 5 ideas that I hope to submit to council to support your thinking and deliberation as you review current findings and work to collect more data. So 5 in 3 minutes, that's going to be tough, but please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about what I do share today. The first is the idea of a representative sample. In order for a survey to have a representative sample, the findings need to be generalizable to the entire population of interest. Your representatives of your respective precincts, so the idea of representative sampling is core to your position, but it's also core to our democracy. So if 100 people live in an area, the 10 people who we choose to survey should give us insight into the needs and conditions of the 100 people who are living in that area representative sample. The next idea that I'd like to submit for your consideration is survey reliability. Reliability means that it's replicable, that we get the same answers every time, no matter who we ask, and no matter who does the asking. For survey validity, accuracy, we're measuring exactly what we hope to measure with any survey that supports a city's comprehensive plan.
So Dr. Woodson?
Yes.
We're going to be discussing the 2017,
2021, correct. So in terms of its interpretation and how we might apply our findings from that, that's what I'm speaking to, not for the future comprehensive plan.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so I will then continue. So for survey validity, every scale we step on should give us the same weights. It should be reliable. If a scale is plus 5 pounds, then it is not valid. Similarly, if we're interested in reliability and validity, if we were doing a survey on Albion residents' favorite breakfast food between pancakes, waffles, and crepes, and we only surveyed at the French market, we might get the answer of crepes, which means that our findings are not reliable. If folks didn't know what crepes were, they wouldn't be able to select it, and that would mean that our findings were not valid. Another concern is the reading level at which surveys are developed and distributed, and also if we've established clear points of access. So was the survey distributed in Braille? Was it translated? Was it read aloud for those who might not be able to read, and things of that nature? The final idea that I hope to present is quantitative intersectionality, that data is disaggregated in ways that allow us to highlight the voices, particularly the voices of minorities, whose voices can sometimes be lost when we don't disaggregate data. So again, I recognize, and I am at 3 seconds, but because of the pause, I'll continue. I recognize that this is a past comprehensive plan, and we're looking backwards to think about how we might use that data to move forward. What I'm hoping is that these ideas inform how you think about that data as that data is presented to you, and how you might apply that in the decisions you make as council. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to stand and address council? Anybody else? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and continue. Do I have a motion to approve our consent calendar items?
So move.
Support.
So in our package, we do have the minutes for our June 6th study session and our June 6th regular session. Any corrections need to be made? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance 2022-05, the ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 3, by amending 2-242 members.
So move.
Support.
City Manager Snyder, are you speaking on this one? Or is Director Arnold? or-
Attorney Harkness would like to.
I'll go ahead.
Go ahead.
So we talked about this at our previous meeting. Basically, what this does is it creates a staggering of the terms for the Equity Task Force. Once the terms expire in December, it sets up, it splits the 7 seats, 3 and 4, such that at the expiration in December, 3 of the seats will have 1-year terms. The remainder of the seats will have 4-year terms. And then after those terms expire, you get back on a 2-year track, so that the seats in terms of expiration, they'll all be 2-year terms after that, but they'll expire on alternating years. So it just sets up a staggering of the seats so that not all of the terms expire at once.
Do you have questions or comments for our attorney? Go ahead.
I think you misspoke. I think you said that half the committee would have a 4-year term.
No, they're going to be. I'm
One
sorry.
and two.
There's 7 members. 3 of the at the expiration of the existing terms in December, 3 of the 7 seats will have a 1-year term. The remaining 4 members, the remaining 4 seats will have 2-year
2-year
terms.
terms, yeah.
And then at the expiration of those 1 and 2-year terms, they all get back on a 2-year term so that they're staggered 3 and 4 seats expiring in alternating years.
That's what I thought you meant. You said 4, so. I was confused.
Any other questions? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve revised web services sales agreement for $5,000 to upgrade our city's website.
So moved.
Support.
City Manager Snyder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So included in your packet is an updated sales agreement with Revise. They're the company who oversees, or we have an agreement in place for the city's website. Clerk Domingo and I, we've been attending different webinars to learn on different capabilities that we could bring to our website to enhance the user friendliness or just make it more user friendly and more attractive to our residents. So we are recommending that we move forward with the proposed upgrades. It is a one-time fee of $5,000. Since it's at that $5,000 mark, I'm required to bring this to council for formal approval. So once you approve this, we will then move forward with working with Revise to enable those upgrades to our city's website.
Questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
So I see that it was the 5,000 is the setup, but then there's an annual fee after that, 2,400.
Yeah, so we currently pay the $2,400 for our annual fee. And so the $5,000 is just to bring forward those new features to the website. So yes, we've already paid that $2,400 for the year. This is just the cost to get.
The 5,000.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Not to be the bean counter, but where, is this in the budget that we knew we were gonna do this?
No, so this is not, this will not be billed to us until next budget year. They've offered for us to bring it to council to get formally approved so then we can prep to include it in next year's 2023 budget.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve council chamber HVAC replacement expenditure.
So moved.
Support.
City Manager Snyder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council, as you may recall, I emailed you all last week, I believe it was the beginning of last week, to authorize emergency expenditure to repair the HVAC units in the chamber. Through that email, we were going to go with Able Heating and Cooling for the amount of $10,068. Upon my sending or authorizing that emergency expenditure, Director Miller then reached out to schedule the work with Able Heating and Cooling, and then we found out that they were unable to get the equipment to do the necessary replacement until September. So provided to you all at the start of this meeting, there is an updated recommendation from Director Miller. At this time, I think it's best to move forward with the second lowest bid amount, which would be $16,783, and that would go with Hearst Mechanical. They do have the equipment readily available, and they are able to come and install that equipment for us. I think this week is going to be extremely hot. We were fortunate enough to cool this room down enough for today's meeting with the 2 small units going. But I would recommend that we move forward with scheduling this with Hearst Mechanical to get this repaired. As you all are aware, we are having a facility assessment completed on City Hall. Unfortunately, we've had to repair this HVAC unit every year since I've been here. I've been with the city now 4 years. I think this just goes and speaks with the necessary improvements that we need to make here at the City Hall facility, but I don't think this is something that we can hold off on, especially with COVID. We need to make sure that we have proper airflow within this chamber. So we are recommending to move forward with Hearst Mechanical in the amount of $16,783. And this was not planned, so it was not budgeted. So I have talked with Director Mead, and he has confirmed that we will be able, this is an expense that will come out of the city's fund balance.
Questions or comments? Yes, Councilman Williams.
Yes, how did we end up on Hearst?
When Director Miller reached out to both Hearst Mechanical as well as Lammers Heating and Cooling, when Lammers responded, there would be a 12% price increase to their original quote. Their original quote was the second lowest at $14,882, but with that additional 12% price increase, that will put them over the bid amount that Hearst Mechanical supplied to us. So Hearst Mechanical is the second lowest bid.
Sounds good, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Motion to approve the MML liability and property pool insurance policy renewal.
So moved.
Support.
City Manager Snyder.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So we received our renewal, the invoice for our liability and property pool insurance policy. It is set to expire by the end of this month, so the new policy will go into effect July 1 of 2022 to June 30th of 2023. Upon receiving that quote, it looks like the premium for this next year will be $218,350. The city, we will be receiving a dividend this year in the amount of $22,106, reducing our net premium to $196,244. This is lower than our renewal for our current year, so we are recommending approval to move forward to allow MML to prepare the formal documents for our renewal of our policy.
Questions? City Manager, Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Yes, the dividend is good.
I was gonna say,
That
how
was
did that
good.
get figured, or is that?
So they send out different forms that each of our departments are required to submit. We've had a lot of equipment come off or just upgrade in our equipment, so that does decrease our cost.
So when you said the liability, that's just on, is that just on the tools and stuff, so property pool,
So our buildings, large equipment, vehicles, everything that.
everything on that half? All right, that was my concern. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. So we will go ahead and, we have a motion to approve the citywide leaf pickup.
So moved.
Support.
City Manager Snyder?
Yeah, so I will, it looks like myself and Director Miller will kind of tag team this issue. So this has been brought before City Council on several occasions now. We first discussed this at our December 20th, 2021 meeting, as well as our February 22nd, 2022 regular council meeting. During both of those sessions, it was the city administration's recommendation that we not move forward with reinstating the citywide leaf pickup. If you can recall, back when we had it, we moved away from it to move forward with a single hauler waste refuse service due to the increased cost to provide a citywide leaf pickup for our residents. I just want to remind everybody that the collection of yard waste, which includes grass, leaves, brush, etc., it is included in the current single hauler waste refuse agreement that we have in place with Granger. For all of our residents, when negotiating this renewal of our current agreement, they have allowed us to have the large container as well as unlimited bags to go along with that container. I know under our original agreement, there were some issues or concerns because we were only limited to, I believe it was like 3 bags each time. So they have agreed to expand that so you can put out your large container as long as it's less than 200 pounds, as well as an unlimited amount of waste bags. Director Miller has provided you with a breakdown, as well as Director Mead, on the cost to provide a citywide leaf pickup. To reinstate that, we're looking at an additional $57,400 to conduct a citywide leaf pickup. That's about, it would take about 4 to 6 weeks to do, and that would require us to pull majority of our DPW divisions to make sure that this moves forward. So I will let Director Miller chime in any additional information, but at this time, it is City Administration's recommendation that we not move forward with reinstating the citywide leaf pickup, that we will encourage our residents to utilize the Granger waste service that we do have in place. Director Miller?
But saying all that, I just want to give you peace of mind. We still will clean the gutters before winter. We'll go around and scrape that for our own use. That way the storm sewers stay cleaner and the streets look better. We have been going around to the street sweeper. We made pretty good progress with that. We have had a couple breakdowns, so we're not quite as far along as we hoped we would be, but it is out and it is moving, and the streets are looking a little better. And I would say that $57,400, that's probably even low, because that was the fuel cost I had when I originally wrote this up, and as you guys know, fuel is through the roof right now. It's insane. So that number is just going to go up.
Councilman French?
So, my guess is that last December, when this proposal first came out, it was the result of frustration that I know I feel for those of us who live in forested parts of the city, and that leaf pickup stops the first week of December. And leaves don't drop until the second or third week in December. So is there any way, when we renegotiate with Granger, that they give us a couple weeks into December to allow the leaves to fall off the trees? I literally had 27 bags that sat in my backyard and rotted before spring because I had no way to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, the oak trees take their own sweet time to drop, and so I put out as many bags as there are leaves on the ground every week, but if they haven't dropped until after December, the 1st of December, we're stuck.
Yeah.
I can speak to that a little bit. There's our current agreement in place. It's a 10-year agreement, so I think we can definitely have those conversations with Granger way before that agreement expires. So I will reach out to Scott Truman, who is our sales rep or our manager over our account, to see if, yes, we're seeing that the leaves are staying on the trees longer, if we can extend that into November or possibly, December.
Give up a couple of weeks in July, right, and give it to us in December.
So one thing we did this year is we also extended the time that the tree dump is open. So there's a couple dates in December. So if for whatever reason you do have leaves that are left over from Granger, tree dump will be open.
Okay. If you've got Saturdays open, that'll help.
Yeah.
But actually, I believe that the last pickup for this year was the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I think, didn't we ask if that could be extended? And they had agreed that it would be after Thanksgiving for the last pickup this coming year, so that we don't have that situation where, yeah, we still have stuff to be picked up and no service. Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Yes, and Patrick, I thank you for all the work that you did with this. And I thank you guys for considering even bringing it back and discussing it as well. But just some concerns. I know when we talked about it before, when Precinct 5 was here as well, myself, we wasn't asking for an all. We were asking basically to help senior citizens out if we could, or even going back and doing some kind of survey or evaluation of the areas that might need to be cleaned up or picked up. But one of my concerns would be right now, just with the, Precinct 3, even though what French was talking about, is the basins, the sewer basins. So we do have our own constituents that go out and continue to clean those areas out, and they should not be doing that. That's something that we should. So I seen that dollar amount, that dollar amount was high. But my thing was that I was thinking that maybe if we can at least just buy the equipment so that we can go back and evaluate those areas and then go back and do some of the areas. All of the areas I don't believe would need to be done. And then I'm quite sure, it's always been said, the college said that they would do some type of help because they would like to, help in fixing the streets in certain parts or whatever, parts of the city, that maybe we could also get some help from them as well. But I just think we should just look into doing that because the seniors do need help in getting that area clean, certain areas cleaned up. It won't be everybody's area. I won't use the word all. And I think that is what the city should be doing. Just,
I hear your recommendation, Councilmember Jackson, and I can appreciate the support for our senior residents. However, I would be hesitant to move forward with addressing some areas of the community and not all, when this would come from all of our residents or taxpayers. So if we are doing it for some areas but not others, we could receive some pushback from other residents who are not receiving maybe that same level of service. I think we can do a great job by getting out to address the catch basins and making sure the gutters are clear so that does not create backup. But I know when I first started here with the city, we worked with the AmeriCorps Vista program, so maybe this is something we can work with the Bonners program. They did come up with a few volunteers to come out to help rake some of the senior residents' yards to help them with bagging of the leaves to make sure that their yards were being addressed. But I would be hesitant to move forward with allowing for additional yard cleanup from the city for some areas without doing it. If we're going to do something, we should do it for the entire city instead of picking and choosing which areas we do go. If we do decide, if council decides we want to reinstate something, this has not been budgeted, so we will need to determine where this additional cost will come from.
and just, thank you for your comment and everything that you did say when you said the word of making sure that all, I kind of did say the word all so we wouldn't be stuck into a spot where if we miss someone's area, then they would be saying, well, you said all. So back again, if we could go out and do some type of survey of some of those areas that do get clogged up more than others do, then I think it would be feasible for us to buy that equipment and be prepared just in case we do have that problem. Because even if we cannot get Granger, or if they do say we can give so many additional bags or weeks, if you guys said you have opened up the leaf place area a little longer, we still have this problem of these sewer bases not getting taken care of. And having our own equipment will basically help us get that done.
Yep. So with that, yeah, we're definitely going to try to scrape the gutter pans better this year. And you did buy the equipment. The backhoe has a 4-way bucket on it.
Okay.
So that's going to help tremendously for us cleaning the gutter pan.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So do we have certain areas in the community that have greater issues? I guess from what Mayor Pro Tem Jackson was.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
There are certain neighborhoods or certain precincts?
Yep,
So
so-
that's on your radar,
Yeah,
correct?
yep,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, we have a list that we kind of go through or before a storm that we know is going to happen and try to hit those gutter pans and whatnot, but we only have 3 people in the street department right now, so it's a struggle.
Councilwoman Reed?
When is the last time that the street sweeper comes by? Because last year, a lot of leaves was left down on the street after the curb park goes down in the street. And I had went out twice last year and cleaned up mine. In fact, just yesterday, I got all that stuff cleaned up. But because those leaves, they blow after you've cleaned up, after you've raked. They blow from other places down in the street. And then during the winter, when the winter trucks come by, they throw it back up on your yard. And along the front part of my yard had so much stuff on it this spring until it had started killing my grass. So,
I don't have a definitive date of the last time that the street sweeper would run. We try to coincide that with us cleaning the gutter pan before winter.
Councilman Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. What determines which gutter pans get more attention, like before the storms?
So we have notorious bad spots from calls, history that, we know as workers in the DPW. Low spots, heavily wooded areas, those areas tend to clog and back up. Linda's talked about before, the spot down at Chestnut, right there at Chestnut and Albion, that's a notorious one that always backs up. There's just spots like that throughout town that we know of and keep track of and try to check.
Okay. So low spots and places near heavily wooded areas. All right.
One more question. Now, what about when you do the flushing of the hydrant? In some of those areas where the drainage does get clogged up? Are we looking at that as well? The sewage?
So, when we flush the hydrants and the storm drains are getting clogged up?
The
Yeah,
different debris that's in there, not just the leaves, but the debris as well.
yeah, so if we have a crew out flushing hydrants, they should be trying to observe if they're clogging a storm drain and cleaning them. And honestly, if anything, it's probably really good for them to be flushed out, get some of the smaller sediment and stuff flushed through the system. And a lot of water at one time will help that, as long as there's not a bunch of debris already there to go down. So that's just something we have to be aware of when we're doing that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I got another one.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, have we looked to see if there's any grant funding to help us with this issue? I'm not sure if something environmental maybe.
I have not heard of anything specifically, but I will reach out. Whiteman is really on top of grants, so I'll ask them if they know of any programs that are out there.
Good.
Thank you.
I think with all the information we have and kind of a plan moving forward, I think, the expense of putting this part of the budget or taken from the budget is maybe not feasible or necessary, at least in my perspective. But we will go ahead and take it to a vote. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, this said discussion / approve.
It
But
does say approved.
we were approving, discussion or / approve.
Mayor, if I can, before you take a vote, if we're going to, I would recommend then council make a motion if this is something you want to move forward, because then we would also have to determine if we were pulling the funds to cover this expense.
So I don't think we want to do that today. So I make a motion that we don't approve this tonight. We table it. To next meeting. So let's table this.
What's the benefit of these?
So we had a motion on the table before we opened up discussion, and I thought we were approving the discussion approve citywide.
That's how everything.
So we have that already on the table. So do I need to make a,
So what was the question?
Yeah, to choose.
If you want to table it, you can make that motion to table it, and that will supersede the motion that's already on the table.
Yes, so we'll table it.
So
For another
Mayor-
time to talk about, for another
Mayor Pro
discussion.
Tem's motion to table?
Support.
So the vote is to table this discussion? Okay. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Waller.
Yes.
French.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
And Mayor Snyder.
Yes. Next is our discussion on the 2017-2021 Comprehensive Plan update. Director Arnold.
Good evening. So, briefly discussed this update. I believe it was originally requested by Councilmember Williams, and it was requested that the Planning Commission provide an update. I believe where we've moved since from there is that I will work with the Planning Commission on a more detailed update in July. But for this update, just to the nature of my schedule and Chair Strander's schedule, he is just a volunteer on the Planning Commission. We wanted to give you just a brief update of the process, where we're at, and try and answer any questions you have, or if nothing else, take back any questions you have so that we can answer them more fully in July. So, I just want to give us an update of, as of today, our 63-day review period for the draft of the comprehensive plan. I'm already getting wrong. This is the new plan. We want to talk about the old plan. We are almost about to have a new plan. So if you have questions about that, I'm happy to take them as well. But your specific concerns that you wanted more in depth were on the old plan. I'd be happy to take a crack at any of those.
Okay, so, thank you, Ms. Mayor. My concern was that we didn't have a review of the prior comprehensive plan that would benchmark, this is where we started, this is where we ended, these were the targets that we set out for the goals, and what was the progress made in those goals, to see where we should pay attention moving forward. So that was really my concern. I sent over some information to Chairman Strander. Hopefully he shared that information with you. But I believe when we do comprehensive plans, they are targeted at addressing certain issues in the community, and being that they are, there should be a regular review, be it quarterly, biannually, annually, semi-annually, so that we can actually discuss how we're progressing throughout those 5 years. Looking back at the comprehensive plan from 2017 and 2021, and also utilizing the information that's encompassed in the new draft plan, it was disheartening to say the least. Now, prior to being on council, it was my responsibility to review on my own as a citizen of the city of Albion what was taking place in the community. And I gotta just be honest with you guys. The topic of poverty that was included in that 2017 plan, it was very disheartening. It was a one-pager. And when we look in this new plan, housing disparity, being house burdened is included in there. The poverty level is included in there. The grant that was written for the Hoagland and Dean Drive, in that grant, it said that the area was 61 to 65% poverty. That's my precinct. 61 to 65% poverty, but for the last 5 years, all we had was a one-pager that said we would look for partners to help with these issues. So, I mean, you understand my concern.
Completely.
Okay.
And if I can, I always feel like when we're talking about the data that's presented in these plans, while I wasn't responsible for assembling the data from the last plan,
we're both new here.
The federal, right, the federal measure of poverty hasn't changed in several decades. So I would, just as your planning director, take any poverty statistic that we have and assume that it's a low ball. We can take that as my own commentary on that point, but I do absolutely see your point. So I don't want to interrupt if you're going to keep going, but I could try and circle back to a couple of things you said.
We can start with
So the first thing you said, I want to agree with, there was not a formal review or evaluation of the prior plan, our progress towards any of the goals, or any kind of, there was no report created that says, here's what we hit, here's what we did. I will say that in drafting the new plan, we started with the goals from the old plan and did make changes where we felt it was applicable. Where, we did this, we didn't do this, this fell through, this isn't going to happen. Can we reword this from how they were looking at it in 2017 to look at the current conditions of the city now. When you talk about seeking partners to resolve our poverty issue, a city government is as limited in its resources, not proportionally, but as its residents are. Our residents have, I would say, extreme levels of poverty. They are our tax base. We can only do so much outside of that. So trying to bring in outside resources is just about the only thing we can do to try and address that poverty directly. We can't take the city budget and start writing checks to residents. We can use the systems we have in place to try and leverage more resources to our community.
If I can provide a little bit more background on the
Well,
current plan.
City Manager Snyder, can I respond to what he said first?
Yep. And
Okay, thank you. I agree, we're very limited in the budgeting and financial aspect of our community based off of the income levels of everyone that lives in our community. I do agree with that to a certain extent. But, and this is a big but, when you look at communities that are like ours, Albion, Michigan is a rural community. We're also an ALICE community. Asset limited, income constrained, employed, working poor. For many years, I have been working poor in this community, working poor community. So, with those same data sets, we utilize that information to get grants for buildings downtown, for different construction and different things that take place that doesn't necessarily benefit those same people whose line item they became on a grant. Now, with that being said, I think the comprehensive plan should be more inclusive of community development, not just in buildings and housing. Yes, housing is important, but it's not important when we use terms like mixed income, but we don't speak to the broad spectrum of income. And then, regardless to how much money you make in this community, the majority of the people in the community, as encompassed in this comprehensive plan, are still housing burdened. Housing burden meaning that, and I'm not upset with you, but housing burden meaning that I spend more than 30% of my income to keep a roof over my head, my children's head, and whoever else may be in your household. Now, as a reference, 31 organizations in the Battle Creek community received ARPA funds, which were dispersed throughout their community to help on a multitude of problems, to address a multitude of problems. Now, maybe what we do is we look at it from a different standpoint. Maybe poor blacks could address the issue of poor blacks if we create an incubator for foundations that can address the issues that they have, that we have, me as a black person, in our community. I think what we need here is a different approach, and that's really the call out. I think we've seen good attempts at addressing certain issues in this community, And I just ask that we broaden our horizon in the way that we look at things and the way that we address things. If we continue down the path that we've been on, the most vulnerable of our community, that Alice group, those that fall under the poverty line, and those that are teetering along that poverty line, will not be able to live in this community. They just won't. Outside of where you may be relegated to in low-income housing. And if that isn't a mirror image of redlining, I don't know what is. So I just ask that when we think about this, when we're looking at this, like you said, there was no formal review was done, no report created. How can we know where we're going if we don't know where we came from? Honestly, I couldn't do it in school. I had a weekly progress report. My caregivers wanted to know what my grades were, to make sure that I was on track, I was turning in my homework, I was doing my assignment, I wasn't acting up in class. They couldn't be there with me every day. We cannot be there with each of these committees every day to make sure and ensure that they have the city's best interests in totality. That's why I asked for the meeting, that's why I asked to have this conversation. That's where I'm at with that.
Absolutely.
City Manager Snyder?
Yes, if I can give a background on the current plan, which was 2017-2021. This plan was adopted, created before my time here at the city, as well as Director Arnold. It's important to note, as soon as this comprehensive plan was adopted by the city experienced the transition of 3 city managers in place to oversee the city. Shortly after it was formally adopted, it was under the direction of, at the time, City Manager Dr. Cheryl Mitchell, as well as Planning Director John Tracy. Dr. Mitchell left shortly after the first year of this plan, and within leadership within the city manager, it was like a revolving door. We had 2 city managers who were here for less than 6 months. I know the first one was here for less than 3 months. So in all honesty, not much from the goals that were identified have been accomplished. And we had revolving door of leadership, interim managers. I think the focus during that time was to continue just the day-to-day operations of the city. So no quarterly updates were completed as they should have been. Moving forward, a subcommittee was established to do the update upon our time or appointment into our current positions. We were at the last final year of that comprehensive plan, where it was then time to do an update or a review on where we were at. Subcommittee was formed with members from our city council as well as our planning commission to work with Beckett and Rader. The firm was brought in to help review and do the update of this comprehensive plan. As Director Arnold stated, that subcommittee that was established, they reviewed the current goals to see if it was still a priority of the city. They worked to tweak or update or keep them as is. I can say from the current comprehensive plan, that one that just expired in 2021, we did have some accomplishments through that comprehensive plan. During that time, the biggest thing I will say, we became an RRC, or redevelopment ready certified community, as well as we had the Project Rising Tide initiative. So at the July 5th meeting, that's where we will have the more in-depth update on what was accomplished through those 2 programs, because those were the 2 major things that were accomplished through that comprehensive plan. But with direct conversations that I've had with myself and Assistant City Manager Ridge, as well as Director Arnold, we now, once we get this new updated plan formalized, we know that we need to start having these ongoing conversations with our community, with City Council, with the Planning Commission. And not to mention, we had COVID as well as that hit during the time of that main plan. So I don't think as much engagement took place as what should have happened, but once we do have an updated plan, you can assure that you will receive those quarterly updates, the yearly report from the Planning Commission, which is required to maintain that RRC status and which is required through the Planning Act. I would encourage anybody to review the draft plan. We still have a few days left within that 63-day review period. I would encourage you to reach out to Director Arnold, submit any questions, comments, feedback that you have before this formal plan is adopted. Before we get to that, the public hearing, we'll have a formal public hearing where we have another opportunity for the public to come out to weigh in on the draft comprehensive plan that is going to come before council at the August 1st meeting to be formally approved. And that will be on July 19th before our planning commission. So I encourage anybody to come out, weigh in, share your feedback, provide your input. And I just want to say, yes, our low to moderate income population is high for our community. 61.6% of our residents are low to moderate income. That has increased from, in the few years, I believe it was 50-something%. So it has gone up. So we do need to make sure that we are making those connections with the different organizations, making sure we are taking advantage of any grant opportunities that are available to assist and help our residents move forward. So I've encouraged, again, just encourage anybody to reach out. I think when talking with Director Arnold, to date, no one has submitted a public comment regarding our draft plan. So please encourage your residents, your constituents to take the time to review. We try to make it more user-friendly, so it's not a bunch of words, so it's easier to navigate, easier to understand. But please encourage our residents to take the time to review. If you would like to come down and sit with either myself or Director Arnold, we would be happy to go over that plan, share what's in it, so that you can provide your proper feedback before we do bring it to the Planning Commission and City Council for formal approval.
Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Manager Snyder. Director Arnold, how many respondents did you have on the proposed comprehensive plan drive?
It was right around 100. You're talking about, I'm sorry, for the survey?
Yes.
The survey that went with that draft? I believe right around 180.
180?
80.
Okay, do you know how many people responded to the 2017?
I do not.
Okay, I believe when I looked into it, it was 252 people, somewhere around there. I think we kind of failed there. Not in doing the work, but in surveying the number of people that we needed to really capture the need. The survey determines the need, right?
Can I add to?
Yes,
that
please,
specific?
please.
In a community about our size, 400 people is about what you want to, it's 0.5%. 0.5% is what you want to try and survey in these types of surveys. We didn't get there. We didn't get there by more than half. I'm disappointed in that. It's given me some, I guess, awareness of the situation on how exactly we have to reach residents with this. This plan discusses poverty, as does the previous one. I don't believe it is the best vehicle to address poverty. I believe this plan is a document of the Planning Commission. Planning Commission's job for whichever, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, public act that gives them their authority, is it surrounds land use, not economic development. The two are often, they're intimately intertwined, but I would say that there's probably some disconnect between when the Planning Commission is sitting down and discussing what they discuss, and when the council is sitting down and discussing what they discuss. So I want to say I definitely hear your points, and I'm seeing the same failures to reach our residents that you are. Or at least I feel that I am.
Yep.
So just from a historical perspective, when I ran the AmeriCorps Vista program in Albion, starting in 2015-16, we did a community needs assessment in that first year. And the amount of effort that, 14 people did to bring about 600 responses out of a city of 8,000 was a Herculean effort that required everything that you've already talked about. door-to-door visits with people, staking out written surveys at Family Fair and at the drugstores, doing an online survey, meeting people at the parks of various times, at every social event or gathering, church meetings, the whole 9 yards. It's certainly something that volunteers can do exceptionally well. And I would encourage anybody who's listening and anybody who's in present company that we have the facility, the capability, just in our volunteer networks, to do a survey that addresses the needs of our community as you have described, Donovan. And I think that that's something that I can certainly provide help with, even if it's manning a station. I think there are volunteers all over the city. So we, perhaps because there's a disconnect between what the Planning Commission's requirements are and what we as a city council and as city leaders want to see, let's take that disconnect and take advantage of it. Let them write their report, but let's get together with people like our audience members, people at the college who are professionals at helping create surveys and getting people the kind of survey that they are willing to take, that gets us the information that we need to know, and to meet people in their community, in their homes, in their churches, in their community parks, etc., so we can ask those questions. And let's set a goal, regardless of what the strategic plan for the Planning Commission is. Let's set a goal for by the end of this calendar year, that we will have a survey and that we will have volunteers, whether it be college students or city council people or church people or whatever, to go and do that work. Because we can do it. Because we've done it before.
I would implore that we have and set that goal to be completed by the end of the third quarter this year. I would move, but I would move that we table everything except the zoning, because the zoning has to be turned in to meet the regulation of the state, but that we don't submit the rest of this document without the rest of the community's input.
If I can just offer something that I think, I'm going to say and acknowledge the caveat, we can change this plan after we meet our state deadlines. We can amend this upcoming plan to meet those goals. I'm not against what you said. I want to make sure that we submit everything in total as well as we can. Our RRC status, which gives property owners and soon-to-be property owners or business partners of property owners in town more access to state of Michigan programs, fundings, courses on, look, here's our best practices on how to port development. Our access to that is dependent on some pieces of this plan. I would much rather submit everything in full and then make a real effort and go back, like you're saying, for the third quarter of this year and look at reaching back out to folks, reaching out to folks in different ways and making those changes so that we could, first of next year, make an amendment formally to that plan. So that we don't feel rushed to get it in like we've half submitted something, so we can take our time with it there.
I would just echo Director Arnold's comments, and just I had a meeting with former Councilmember Lanu, I believe last week, and when we look at any formal plan of the city, we should always view it as a working document. Just because you have it updated and it's formalized for, let's 5, 10 plus years, you should never wait until the end of that time period to then start updating it. You should always view plans as working documents. You should always be continuing to engage with our residents and amend those plans throughout that time period, instead of waiting until time's up and now it's time to do either a complete rewrite or an update of that. So I think we continue with the process that's been outlined, get an updated plan adopted, and then yes, we can very much continue to develop a new survey, engage with our residents, and we can formally amend amid our new updated plan, but I would be hesitant to delay getting something submitted to the state because a lot of grants, a lot of different opportunities, resources out there, having a formal comprehensive plan is a requirement. It makes your application more attractive. It makes you eligible to receive those or take advantage of those programs. So I think it's best that we do continue with the process that we have already started to update our current plan. And then, yes, we can continue to engage. We should always be engaging with our residents. And if we're doing our, what we've been hired to do in the duties of elected officials, we should be listening to the feedback that we get from our residents. We should be shifting priorities that have been identified within these formal plans. We should be amending these plans to take into consideration the feedback that we have received from our residents to make sure they are aligned with values and views of the people that we have been elected and hired to serve. So I would fully support doing a new survey, engaging within this next quarter, but I think we should definitely stay on track to get something completed, submitted to the state so that we can move forward with taking advantage of different resources and opportunities.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Director Arnold. And I can follow up with you. Hopefully, the information was shared to him from the emails that we had corresponding about the 2017 plan. One thing for certain that I want to make sure is received in that document is any grant reporting that was facilitated through those, through that document, so that we do have a baseline for what the community has cared about and what the community actually cares for. So we know what work is being done in the community, and when the meeting takes place annually, or annually, right? Okay. That grant reporting is provided so that we know where our time and attention is being spent. Thank you.
So Councilman Sims, I mean, I totally understand your frustration, but I think you kind of made mention of one of the issues is why are we not getting resources? Why are we not getting funding
Yes.
to address the issues? But I think, kind of going to what Mrs. Davis was saying, is like, if we don't have people present for those conversations, we are going to be overlooked time and time again. But I think that kind of goes with what City Manager Snyder was saying. Because of our lack of leadership, we haven't had people at the table. And so I think when we have that continuity, when we have people who have those connections, when there's trust, when there's connections, when there's collaboration, that's when we start getting the funds and the resources that can make a difference. So I think that hopefully, you know, moving forward, that's something that we're going to build upon, is being able to be a part of those conversations to get more resources here to help address our issues.
Madam Mayor, can I respond? I would hold that as truth if I wasn't in the position that I'm in here as a council member. And in this position, you talk to employees that support different organizations here in the community that are in those rooms and have to walk away from those rooms hat in hand, empty hat in hand. Well, we were over here in Battle Creek and they said that they're getting funding for this and they're getting funding for that. Well, we were just at a meeting in Kalamazoo and they saying that they're getting funded for this and they're getting funded for that. And when they ask, will this funding be made available for the Albion community, they're told no. The reason they're told no is because we don't currently have a community development organization as a function of the city to raise funds to support needed things in the community. If we review the grant funds and the grant approval and the grants that have come across our tables in this room for the past, since November, since I've been here, there has been housing, park, street. That has been the totality of the grant funding that I have witnessed in this room, not much of anything else that would address the larger need of the community. And that's not for me to say that the city doesn't care about these things, but where you spend your money shows you what you care about. So if we just from the date that I sat in this seat, look at the grant funding and the dollar amounts that have been generated in this community and where they have gone, that will show you what we care about. I understand that we would all like to make a greater impact. What I'm trying to do here is address it head on, point it out, and say, look, Albion, Michigan will not be a great community if we do not take into consideration the totality of the city, not just the infrastructure and housing that no one from this community will utilize or pay for. That's the point. So our agenda should be forming a community development organization that will address the needs of our community here in Albion, so that we can get that grant funding for the kids. In the comprehensive plan, it talks about the poverty level of teenagers. Okay, that's a box we can check off by running paying jobs throughout the summer. They did it when I was a kid. There were several when I was a kid. Things like that. Like, if we look at the numbers, let's really look at them and let's really address them. 61 to 65%, do you know the mental breakdown I had after seeing that? The community in which I grew up in, the doors, the neighborhoods that I grew up in, where I live, where my parents lived, where my grandparents lived, where my great uncle lived, 61% poverty in any community is a terrible thing, especially in a country like America. We can't stand for it. So I just hope that we can address that through this document, through any other document that we need to, and if it's not this one, which, I mean, everything else was in there, I don't see why not, but let's address that issue. Let's be the council that actually solved the problem of the divisiveness here in the Albion community, being that a certain section of town is rich and the rest of the town is poor. Let's bridge that gap. Let's help to make the entire community upwardly mobile and to create stakes so that all the shareholders in this community can live a better life financially, through education, through health, and environmentally. Thank you.
Any other comment? Do I have a motion to approve the wastewater high service pump replacement?
Thanks, Ian.
So move.
Support.
So that was the information that was placed on your desk. Director Miller?
All right, so real quick, this is actually the water treatment plant high service pump, not wastewater, that was a typo.
It's already.
But regardless, it's a VFD failure. The VFD controls the speed of the pump. So we have no way of ramping the pump up and down and automatically starting the pump. So it's running constant. So every second that we're talking, breathing, we're dumping water because we can't control the pump in any way besides on. So this is a proposal to repair the VFD for $9,500. We can repair it, within the next few days, or we can purchase one new for $15,000, but it's 3 months out. So I'm recommending that we pursue to repair the current VFD we have.
So, okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson?
Yeah, so this is the item G that was added into the packet that we Okay, just got it.
So Patrick, are you saying that you're proposing that we repair and then purchase a new? Or
Nope, just repair the one we have.
Okay.
So what is,
Councilman French?
But we should probably be thinking about, over the next X number of years, X being less than 3, adding an item in the budget to replace it.
Yeah, actually, we're currently working with Whiteman to do a comprehensive water asset management plan.
Okay.
That'll include a lot of upgrades to the plant.
Okay. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on something when I know the Band-Aid
that's what I
won't
was
be
gonna ask
sufficient.
you, $9,500, that's the Band-Aid, correct?
Yeah, it does come with a warranty, and Albion Electric does a lot of work for us, and that's good work.
So what is the warranty on it? Because you're saying here, it would,
I think the
versus the
warranty,
new one would be 3 months.
I didn't print the other attachment, I think it says right on there.
Because that would be nice
It's
to
an
know.
18-month warranty.
Well, oh yes, right here on the back of this page, because I didn't have it, I wouldn't ask you that crazy question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good.
All right. Wow. So we'll spend $9,500 and then within 18 months.
Or we can wait 3 months and we'll just keep wasting water every day. I mean, that's really the only 2 options we have.
So this kind of ties into, we had a study session a few months ago to discuss our water rates, to be able to fund the water asset management plan that Director Miller just mentioned that we worked with Whiteman and Associates to develop. The reality of it is we have to look at addressing our current water rates. Our water rates have not been raised since 2014.
Yeah.
It is now 2022. So to be able to fund the repairs, the projects that have been identified within that asset management plan, we have to raise our rates. Because our water and sewer funds, they are enterprise funds, meaning that the rates or fees that we charge must be able to operate, maintain, pay for any capital improvements. And right now, when you don't raise your rates on a regular basis, you fall out of compliance with that. And with age infrastructure, the improvements start to become more expensive with the new restrictions and requirements that Eagle has put in place, the state of Michigan. Those costs to maintain, they're increasing. So that will be coming before you within the next few months to have discussions on getting the new water rates approved to go into effect start of 2023.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Patrick. So we are voting to approve the repair, $9,500. City Clerk Domingo?
Councilmember Jackson,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
French,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Reed, and Mayor Snyder.
Yes. All right, future agenda items.
Make it.
Anything we would like to make sure we, yep, Councilman Williams?
Yes, future agenda items. Can we view the potential impact of a community development organization as a function of the city of Albion?
Community Development Organization?
Yes.
Yep.
We're gonna be bringing a update to one of our criminal ordinances. The Supreme Court recently adopted an update to the model jury instructions that impact how we should have that ordinance structured. So I'll have it for discussion, first reading, your first meeting in July.
Any other future agenda items? All right. Public comment? Anybody in the gallery wishing to stand and address council on any matter? You have 3 minutes. Just need to state your name, address, and the floor is yours.
Move the adjourn.
Anybody on?
You can have it on the side.
All right.
I already said that.
Last call? City Manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So a copy of my report was included in the packet. Then you have received an updated copy for you. It just includes an update from one of the city departments. A few things to just highlight within my manager's report. The Recreation Advisory Commission, they met on Tuesday, June 7th. They're working to review and update, make a formal recommendation to council to update the city parks rules and guidelines, as well as park signage that is in all of our park spaces. The DDA, they held their regular meeting on Wednesday, June 8th. They discussed a series of things. I think the biggest thing to know is the July Cruise and Car Show, which is scheduled to be held on Thursday, June 30th from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. It will be held downtown along Superior Street, so please come out and attend that car show. Their next meeting will be held on Wednesday, July 13th at 7 a.m. I had my monthly meeting with the MEDC, which is the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. Myself, Assistant Manager Rich, and Director Arnold, we met with members from the MEDC on Wednesday, June 8th. We're happy to share that we have received a formal letter of interest from the MEDC for 110 through 114 East Erie Street for a rental rehabilitation project. So that proposed project will create 4 mixed-income residential units and commercial spaces in the downtown area. I just want to say a big thank you to Councilmember Reed as well as Jackson for hosting a wonderful employee appreciation picnic on Friday, June 10th. We had a great turnout from all of the city employees, had some really great food, had a raffle, and it was a great event. Just to reiterate, the road millage, we held our final town hall meeting to discuss the proposed road millage last Wednesday, June 15th at the Marshall Opportunity School. So this is just a reminder that the road millage will be on this upcoming August 2nd ballot. It is a proposed millage in the amount of 6 mills. Just from the study session, I think all of our precinct candidates, they all mention the conditions of our roads, which has also been a hot topic that we've received. Feedback from our residents that they are not happy with the current state. So this is a way for us to address that situation in our community and to hopefully bring forward more repairs to our roads here in the community. And just want to remind everyone, the Citywide cleanup event will be held on Saturday, June 25th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Ketchum and Harris Field. Included in the published packet is a list of acceptable items for both of those locations. And then I just want to remind everyone, with our current contract with Ranger, all of our residents, you can schedule to have one bulk item picked up from your curbside once a month. That is on the last Friday of every month. You just need to either call or send an email to have that scheduled. So I just want to remind everybody that that option is still available and that is year-round. And then 4th of July celebration, the Albion Chamber, they will be holding the 2022 Albion fireworks as part of the annual 4th of July celebration on Sunday, July 3rd. The fireworks this year will be put on by Night Magic Display, and it will take place at Barnes Park at dusk. And then also the individual department reports, just updates on what's happening within different departments of the city. Happy to answer any questions. I think the biggest one to note, code enforcement officer, we have hired a full-time code enforcement officer. His first day was actually today, so he will come before council at the next council meeting to introduce himself. So we are happy to have that position filled. It's been temporarily filled from one of our finance staff, so we are hoping that this will be a long-term fill and that we will have that position permanently filled moving forward.
Any questions for our city manager?
Can the Calhoun County scraps and electronics and scrap tire events be put in the newspaper Thursday? I had some people at Juneteenth asking about what things, and I didn't have any information there with me.
To get put in the newspaper or on the website? I'm sorry to hear.
Pardon me?
You say the newspaper or the website?
Newspaper.
Newspaper?
They wanted to know the things that could be taken.
Included?
It's good to get it in the newspaper.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Councilman Williams?
Yes, the planning and building section, it mentions the rental certification ordinance. I just have a couple questions. I know it hasn't been, we didn't go into it, but I would like to know what if we've looked at other communities that have utilized this, and what has the impact been on investment in the communities. I understand that we're up against COVID and that ending or continuing or whatever, and the impact that has come from that on the price of materials, but also we're in a recessionary period as well. So I would like to know basically being that in the comprehensive plan, we want to bring in more housing, diverse housing, what has been the impact on investment in communities that have went to a rental certification? Has the impact lessened? Well, has the investment lessened, or has it gone up, basically?
And I should have mentioned this during the future agenda items. Since the resignation of former Councilmember Lanu, yourself, as well as Councilmember Reed have currently serve on the rental certification subcommittee. Now that she is no longer on council, we will have this on the agenda at our next meeting once Precinct 5 has been officially filled. We will be looking forward to a recommendation to appoint another member of council to continue to work with that subcommittee. I know Director Arnold is working with the attorney's office to review the draft ordinance that they have come up with, as well as the property maintenance code, to make sure there's consistency between the two documents. So once we have a new member appointed to that subcommittee, we can further, I know that subcommittee will continue to meet, and we can have those conversations before we bring something forward to council to take action.
Thank you.
Council member comments.
I would like to, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank Ms. Reed for the beautiful Juneteenth celebration that was had here in the community. I've seen a lot of faces that don't typically visit the park, so it was a great bonding moment for the community at large. I want to also thank everyone that helped you and assisted in those, in putting that together as well. It was very beautiful and refreshing to see so many people out in the community and seeing so many diverse entrepreneurs as well, vending and doing different things in the community. But to see the children and the parents and grandparents, you know, it was beautiful to see. So I definitely want to commend you on that and say thank you. And thank you to everyone that helped as well in planning and facilitating that as well.
Councilwoman Lawler?
Okay, thank you. I also want to say thank you for the committee for the Juneteenth. Miss Carrie Anderson, her family expresses their love, and I was told to let you know that the granddaughter wants to join the board or the committee to help continue this great success, and the family was really overjoyed by it. My other item is, as far as our trees, when is our contract up with that person, and do we have an update on like a schedule of when we'll be starting to cut down trees again?
I believe are we in year 2 of 3 of the current contract?
Do we have a schedule, or we just?
Come down as we can. We rate all the trees, once we're done, that getting worse. We're working on all the time until it happens. Expended about 2/3 of the tree budget.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Reed?
I got an email from you saying that I needed to fill out a form for the 2 stumps that's breaking in my fence, but when I called down to your office, to find out where I get the form from. Nobody could tell me where to get the form.
There's not a form, you just need to report if you have any tree issues to the DPW office. Bonnie Edmonds is the administrative assistant for that office. She will add you to the list. They will come out and rank the severity of your the tree issue that you're having. There's not a form, you just need to make a formal request or report to the DPW office.
Yeah.
If you talk about it, it is technically.
That's my little granddaughter is coming next week, and that is just a mess.
Councilman French.
So, Precinct 6 and the oak forest in my precinct is being devastated by what was once called gypsy moths, which is not the politically correct term for those moths now. But I remember a long time ago, the city used to have some sort of spraying program back in the day, like 25 years ago when we first moved. I remember one of the first weekends we were there, the city had contracted somebody to spray for those. Is there anything that we can do aside from what I'm doing now, which is basically squishing them as often as I can? If you take a drive down Erie Street onto Elizabeth or Brockway, I mean, trees look like they do at the end of fall because the caterpillars are devastating. So is there anything that we can do aside from pray the trees don't die?
Yeah, nobody has a sign paper's license in the city anymore, but I'm willing to contract it out.
And I know I've seen a lot of citizens, well, last year I saw a lot of citizens out trying to do their own remedies for them.
Yeah, there's a couple of products out there. There's a bacterial suspension you can buy that you can spray on your trees, and the caterpillar eats it and then dies, or doesn't pupate and become a moth. The problem, of course, is our trees are 75 feet tall, right? So you can't really get there. So
We can definitely look into getting a few quotes to
Yeah.
have that service completed, because I know when talking with our cemetery sexton, we're experiencing the same issue with the trees in the cemetery.
Yeah.
That they have eaten all of the leaves off, and then during some times of the day, the buildings out there are covered with these caterpillar moth type
Yep.
insects.
Yeah.
So, yes, we can definitely look into contracting that service out.
Any other, yep, sorry.
Very quickly. Once again, applaud you, Ms. Reed, on how the Juneteenth went, but then also the employee appreciate picnic. That was nice that you was able to give them appreciation picnic, and I think that says a lot for the city if you can continue to go that way, to bring us together, just together as a whole, as a council, and the individuals that work, the employees. And then the other thing, Patrick, I'm sorry, I didn't know, did they get with you? You already know, right, about closing the street? The date changed from the time that you and I talked about, the street being closed for the car show.
No.
Okay, I will. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you so much.
Councilman French.
So just, let's make it unanimous. Len, every year you do Juneteenth exceptionally well, and this year was no exception. It was spectacular. I did not come, but everyone in I have families.
Next year.
Well, I will be. I had family issues of my own to deal with, so.
I'm sorry.
But that being said, it's always good that you are able to bring so many diverse people in collaboration, the very thing that we as a city succeed at. We accomplish great things when we do that collaboration, and your leadership over the decades should be applauded. So, thank you. And then shifting to Precinct 1, Donovan, I mentioned before, I'm very serious. Let's, you and I, and some people in the audience perhaps, and let's meet and have a conversation about how we can create the survey that you're looking to create and have questions on it that you want answered, so we can move forward. Because it will take a month to get the survey decided on, and that gives us 8 weeks to get the survey out and then collected and analyzed. So let's jump on that. All right? I want to support you in that, and I will happily follow your lead on that. So let's do it.
Thank you.
Ashley and Vivian waved your hand. They were on the committee too. Cliff Harris, Gabrielle Ford, Dante, yeah, who else? They'll be in the newspaper. They'll all be.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. 5-0 support.
City Clerk Domingo.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
French,
Well, okay.
Seriously?
Yes.
You playing too?
Yes. Meeting adjourned, 8:45 PM.